Okay, so when you think about diamonds, what's the first image that pops into your head? Is it maybe those huge mines in Africa? Or, somewhere icy like Russia? Maybe Antwerp's famous markets? I think for a lot of us, yeah, those are the classic pictures. But what if I told you there's this other really significant diamond story happening, kind of under the radar, deep within China? It's this fascinating mix of ambition, really fast innovation, and a sort of quiet change that's actually shaking up the whole gem world. And for this deep dive, you shared some brilliant sources with us, including parts of unearthing China's diamond industry, natural and lab grown gems. Really interesting stuff. So, our mission today is basically to dig through these, find the most important bits, the key nuggets, really to give you a good shortcut to getting up to speed on this, well, pretty surprising topic.
Yeah, and getting into China's role here is, it's absolutely vital. It's not just about industry, you know, tools and tech, although that's huge. It's also about understanding where jewelry itself might be heading.
Yeah.
It really changes the game in terms of where diamonds come from and, well, what they even mean today.
It feels like a massive shift, absolutely. And talking about China and diamonds, one of the first things that really jumped out at me from the sources was how it all started. It wasn't some big sudden gold rush or diamond rush, I guess. It was actually a scientific find way back in the 1960s in Shandong province.
That's right. A really crucial point.
Yeah.
What geologists found back then were kimberlite pipes. You can sort of picture them as these ancient volcanic vents, like
Mhm.
carrots pointing down. They carried molten rock and diamonds up from deep inside the earth.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, finding these is incredibly rare anywhere, so it's a pretty monumental discovery for China at the time.
Right. And the sources seem clear that even though China isn't, say, the world's biggest producer of natural diamonds by volume,
Hmm.
their own mining efforts are strategically really important for them. It's about self-reliance
I
and
think
feeding their own industries.
exactly. Self-sufficiency is a big driver. And if you look at where the main natural diamond action is,
Mm.
you've got Lining province, specifically the Fuxian kimberlite field. That's
Yeah.
significant. Then Shandong province, the sources actually call it the cradle of China's diamond mining.
The cradle, okay.
Yeah. And Hunan gets a mention too, but it's really much more known now for synthetic diamond production, not so much the natural stones.
That distinction feels really key because, while their natural mines might be smaller scale compared to some giants, like Russia's Mir mine, the real story, the one that's genuinely reshaping things globally, seems to pivot pretty sharply away from traditional mining.
Oh, absolutely. This is where it gets incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
China has just, well, leaped forward in synthetic diamond production. They've gone from being just another player to now the world's largest producer of lab-grown diamonds. It's been a remarkably fast climb.
Wow, the largest globally. That's
Yeah.
huge. But how, I mean, what's the tech driving that kind of revolution? How are they pulling that off so effectively?
Well, they've become masters of the high-pressure, high-temperature process, HPHT. Basically, think of it as mimicking the intense conditions deep within the Earth's mantle, but doing it inside a lab in a controlled way.
Okay, like recreating nature.
Exactly. And these aren't just, scientific curiosities. These lab diamonds are heavily used in industry cutting tools, electronics components, and more they're popping up in jewelry too.
Right, so the tech is obviously a huge part of it, but let's zoom out a bit. What about the economics? How does this all fit into China's bigger picture economically? Because it sounds like it's not just about what they produce, but what they actually use themselves.
Yes, and that's fascinating. Unlike a lot of diamond-producing nations that focus heavily on export, China actually uses a huge chunk of its diamond output domestically.
Really?
Yes, not just a minor detail. It feels like a core part of their strategy. By keeping so much in-house, they guarantee supply for their own critical industries, avoid relying on sometimes volatile global markets.
Yeah.
And it probably gives them some internal pricing leverage, too.
Yeah.
It's about self-sufficiency now, definitely, but maybe also setting up market influence down the line.
That makes a lot of sense. So, okay, for the diamonds staying in China, where are they mostly ending up? What are the big domestic uses?
Predominantly industrial applications. So think super precise cutting tools, really effective abrasives for manufacturing, and also key components in high-tech areas, semiconductors, aerospace sectors needing materials with diamonds' unique properties. It really highlights how China's internal demand goes way beyond just, sparkle and jewelry.
And drilling down again on that lab-grown side, the numbers are just, well, mind-blowing. Over 90%. Over 90% of the world's lab-grown diamonds are coming out of Chinese factories now. That's almost total dominance.
It's an absolutely staggering figure, isn't it? And if you look at it from the manufacturer's point of view, you can see the appeal. Chemically, physically, these lab diamonds are identical to mined ones. There's no difference. But the process, much faster, more efficient, and often presented as having a smaller environmental footprint than large-scale mining. Though, as we'll see, the energy source matters there.
Okay, so their reach isn't just internal, then clearly. They must be selling these outwards, too.
Oh, definitely. They supply industrial clients all over the world, construction, electronics, you name it. And yes, increasingly, they're the source for lab-grown gems going into fashion jewelry brands in Asia, Europe, the U.S. It's fundamentally changing the jewelry market, offering options that are often more affordable and marketed with an ethical angle.
Right. But, okay, with that kind of rapid growth, that kind of market share, there must be challenges, complications. What do the sources say about the controversies or concerns?
Yeah, there are definitely discussions. The environment is a big one for both types of diamonds, actually. The sources point out that while lab-grown is often framed as cleaner, you have to look at the energy consumption. If those labs run on coal, which is common in China, the carbon footprint can be significant.
Interesting nuance.
It is. Some analyses mentioned actually suggest that certain well-managed natural mines, maybe using less energy-intensive methods, could potentially have a lower carbon footprint per carat. It's not simple.
So it's not a black and white lab good, mine bad situation.
Not necessarily, no. And beyond the environment, you have ongoing global debates about traceability, knowing exactly where any diamond came from, and the whole discussion around labeling. How should lab-grown gems be presented compared to natural ones? What's the difference in perception and value? Which really brings up a question for you, the listener, to think about. How does this flood of identical but lab-created diamonds change how you feel about a diamond's value or its story?
Yeah, that's a deep question. No easy answer there. So looking forward then, what seems to be China's overall strategy? What's the long-term goal for their diamond industry?
It looks like a very deliberate, strategic push to, well, dominate both ends of the spectrum. They aim to be the go-to, reliable supplier for industrial diamonds worldwide. That's one side. And on the other, they're actively shaping the trends in affordable, lab-grown luxury jewelry. It's like a pincer movement on the market.
And thinking about those concerns you just raised, traceability, transparency, how are they tackling those issues as part of this future plan?
Well, this is where their tech focus comes back in. They're putting resources into and talking about creating transparent and traceable supply chains.
Okay.
Using things like blockchain, AI tracking, the idea is to digitally fingerprint a diamond from creation or extraction all the way through its journey.
Ah, like a digital passport for each stone.
Exactly. Something verifiable, recorded on an immutable ledger. It's designed to build confidence and address those historical issues of opacity in the diamond trade. And if you sort of step back and look at the bigger picture, China's whole diamond story, it's this incredible example of how a nation can shift gears. Going from being a relatively modest player in natural resources to becoming a powerhouse in global innovation and high-tech manufacturing. It's quite the blueprint.
Absolutely. From, deep in the earth, pulled out of those ancient kimberlite pipes, all the way to these hyper-modern, sterile lab environments where gems are literally grown atom by atom. It's this amazing collision of ancient geology and, well, super advanced tech. So maybe here's a final thought to leave you with, something to mull over. In a world where we're thinking more and more about sustainability, about knowing where things come from, about smart technology, what does China's rise in lab-grown diamonds really signal for how we traditionally think about value, about luxury, especially in the global market? And how might that influence your own choices down the line when you're considering something as symbolic, as personal as a diamond? Something to think about.